Video on something that I think it's something that people don't really understand how it's the powers that be, the New World Order or whatever is actually going to control us. And I just want to state though, it's really from a more of an unexpected source. Now some people might be very privy to this and watch to it, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but a lot of people probably aren't. A lot of people don't realize that back when the Soviet Union, USSR, was in its heyday, the main way they controlled dissidents was not through the gulags, where they would send somebody to the mines, or they would send somebody to, I don't know, work out in the fields or something, or work camps and all that garbage. They did it mainly through re-education centers. They are actually like a type of psych ward. A popular drug they used to use was Haldol. It was a type of drug that, given in large doses, it's called a chemical lobotomy. And a chemical lobotomy being that, well, it would actually cause the person not to be able to function, think. It would give them like a mental torture, whereby they couldn't think, they couldn't move, and all this type of stuff. But in smaller doses, what it does is creates a type of lethargy in the person, whereby they will not care about their political beliefs or whatever, any beliefs, or even about their country, their town, or whatever they believe in, or whatever they like the most, their most important interests, their own family, friends, wives, and kids. They won't care about anything. It makes them totally lethargic. These are types of meds that are actually being dished out on the public, like not just powerful ones that are basically chemical lobotomies like Haldol and Thorazine, but also lithium. Lithium is very popular, that psych professionals are using this left and right. Now, I use that word professional. Actually, I call them, they're professional sadists. It's really what it is. These people do know what the hell they're doing. Most of the time, in my humble opinion, and I'll tell you this, it's probably not a humble opinion, it's probably an educated opinion, most psychs get into that profession because they have problems themselves. And they also like to control people. But most psychs are actually not in business for themselves, because it's not that easy to keep a practice open when, well, let me put it this way. Maybe if it's reimbursed, it's always reimbursed by, say, the healthcare system or family counseling, fine. But they have to, they also will work for the state. They'll also work for government. They do not get paid unless they have patients. That's quite obvious. Patient lost is money lost. So what their mission usually is to freaking drug people as much as possible and keep their money flowing. As a matter of fact, most of the state-run institutes are run by basically the pharmaceutical companies. It's a revolving door. For instance, there could be people that are put in there for domestic disputes, or just somebody who's hanging around in a park that's, I don't know, they're loitering or something, but maybe it's not a park, maybe it's around a 7-Eleven or near a convenience store, and the cops get called on it, the person's hanging around, and they take them away. And where they take them usually is not to a police station. They take them to an psych evaluation place, where they are almost always universally given meds, sometimes given extremely strong meds. Now, I'm going to actually tell you some things about, because this has been going on through, I know about New Jersey, probably its worst state. That's one of the places as a matter of fact, in New Jersey, the most popular profession out there is family counseling, which is all related to, psychiatry and meds and all this type of stuff. But there's also every state has these type of things. But when the medical profession has now been basically more and more centralized through Obamacare, the Affordable Health Care Act, which is total control over the people, it's going to be a method whereby they can state or just look at you and say, you have a psychosis, because maybe you're saying something against the government, or you're saying something against the policy that they want to stop. And in which case, they'll give you drugs like they used to give to the Soviet dissidents. Now, they have done that in the United States against blacks that were more militant, that were fighting for civil rights back in the 60s. They were drugging them up with drugs like Haldol. That's an absolute fact. I want to actually present this because this is an area whereby, you need to fight back for your rights all the way. Now, I'm going to also say one place I only know of, and I know there's one up in New Jersey someplace too, but you really got to look online. There are advocacy groups out there. Now, this is not a legal service. This is not, they're not going to be like taking up cases for people or something like that. They're not doing anything whereby, they're part of an agency or something. But it's basically a citizens group. It's a citizens commission on human rights in Florida. And a lot of times they will address situations like this. So I want to put this out as a public service announcement for people that have been unjustifiably abused by a system. Their phone number is 800-782-2878. 782-2878, 800 number. Now, I want to state, though, this is going on in every single state throughout the country. And now that the medical system is being basically, brought together more and more under one hat and standardized through, say, the Affordable Health Care Act, it's quite obvious that the Affordable Health Care Act is about control. It's about total control. But a lot of people don't realize, they're not thinking about how the control is going to be used. The control is not through, medical needs, like you need treatments for heart disease, you need treatments for, stomach ulcer or something or whatever, or you have tuberculosis or influenza or whatever the hell it is. It's not that type of control. The main way they're going to use the control is through the psychiatric profession. There's absolutely no doubt about this. This is an extremely important information I'm giving you. Because without your ability to think, and not only just act, without your ability to think, you're done. And they can screw you up with these drugs all the way. They can make it so you cannot think, or you will, maybe even if they give you minor amounts of them, you will not care. Actually, this is what's going on throughout the whole freaking country as it is, because lithium is being passed out like by candy by these freaking psychiatrists. Now, a lot of the younger generations, they seem to think it's a good thing. I mean, it's crazy. I talk to, I know about, like, say, younger women or something, I know it's kind of like a woman thing. Like, it's like if they have a problem, it's more like they're a victim, and they, want to feel like they're helpless, and, woe is me. So it's always, they almost eat it up when a psychiatrist will diagnose them with bipolar disorder and give them meds, and it's like they take the meds and they're like saying, oh, I have bipolar disorder. And it's like they wear it like a badge of, something of hurt, that look at me, and, sometimes a lot of them do that. So, but in reality, what they're doing, though, is they're basically taking away a lot of their civil rights in a lot of ways, because once you are designated with these things, there's so many things you can't do. There's so many things you can't do. It's beyond, it adds up into different things. Total control is actually the name of the game. They're doing it through technology. Like, as a matter of fact, when I'm putting out these videos, anything I do or say on a video can be used up against me like it's in a court of law, for crying out loud. I'm taking my risk every time I'm putting out something like this. And, it's like, what the hell are you going to do? Freaking sit like a wallflower and do absolutely nothing about it? But most people are like that, and they don't. A lot of people think, if I want to play safe videos on YouTube, what I could do is just, like, do a little freaking stupid shit like most people do, and I get 10 million views of little clown act, one going here, one going there. Somebody clicks on it. You know what I mean? There's garbage videos out there that are just superfluous bullshit, because most people are into fun and games. But this is important, because if you really want to live in a free country, and it's not a joke, you're going to find out that all your rights and freedoms are going to be taken away from you through the psych profession. The psych profession is actually titled, well, it's not all of them are total quacks, but most of them are sadistic quacks. And sadistic is actually the freaking word. Control freaks is actually the absolute truth on them. The police are actually involved in some of this stuff in some ways, because it's easy for them to say, pick up somebody that's walking around the street, whatever the hell is they're wandering about or some bullshit, and, they're like harmless, so they pick them up, and it's almost like they have a quota too on some of this shit. And when they take them to this place, the psych profession gives them drugs and blah, blah, blah. It's actually scary because, I always think about it. If I was out riding my bicycle, who the hell knows what the hell they could do to you, for crying out loud. You're riding a bicycle in an irrational manner, for crying out loud. But in some cases, it's even happened to police themselves. Certain things that happen to police. As far as why they're doing this, the obvious reason is what I told you. It's total, complete control of the population. Absolutely. There's absolutely going to be a situation in the future whereby, it's exactly how they did it in the Soviet Union. It's exactly what's planned for over here. And, Communist Obama is one of the ones that pushed for this. Hillary Clinton, the wife of the communist Bill Clinton, she was pushing it way back when, in the 90s, Hillary Care, for the same type of thing. People get what the hell they deserve, maybe some cases, in some cases they don't. I think it was Larry McDonald, I forgot who it was, the one that used to be head of the John Birch Society on a KAL Flight 007 that disappeared many years ago. There's a lot of reports he was actually captured by the Russians and drugged up to the max. And, basically turned into a freaking zombie from being a fierce patriot. They could do it to anybody. My opinion of psychs is that they're sadistic, horrible people for the most part. They got problems, and that's why they get into that profession. But it's a very lucrative profession, provided you can fill, a number of patients that you need to have. So a lot of times, if you don't have, in other words, could you imagine the psych profession existing without health insurance or state-sponsored, facilities? Probably not in a million years, because the medications are big bucks. Psychs make $200,000, $300,000 more, $500,000, $800,000 a year. People aren't going to go spend their own money to see some kind of bullshit like that, because if they had to spend say they were depressed, they'd be far more depressed after they spent all that money for this guy to give them a bunch of funny meds to make them feel worse. So it all is actually reimbursed through the health insurance company. One of the reasons why the health insurance has actually gone broke, and they're trying to see, Affordable Health Care Act has actually been pushed for by the health insurance companies themselves. And because they're having problems, the health insurance companies are having problems. That's why the rates are going up. But they're not having problems because of the actual health care needs of people. It's because the expensive medications and the pharmaceutical racket that is causing these health care costs to go way the hell up. And of course, there's all the people out there that are all part of the system that are, prescribing these medications. Now, in the case I said of a regular doctor, a regular practitioner, say he sees your blood pressure, he says it's too high, he wants to lower that blood pressure, he might prescribe a medication, which I don't agree with. You might want to do a natural diet to lower the blood pressure. But the thing is, that has empirical scientific evidence. You take a measurement and you say blood pressure is, 90 over 150 or whatever, that's bad. Or, it should be 120 over 70. Now, in the case of a psychiatrist, they'll just judge somebody by saying whatever the hell they want. They can lie on the form, whatever the hell it is. It's like you can, recite everything you know about where you lived, where you worked, or whatever, and they'll say you're mentally incompetent or some crap, and put it on the form and say you need meds. They'll do that. They could do that with anybody. Now, they could do this with situations, though, far more easily with people that are less intelligent. But no matter what your intelligence is, you can actually get screwed up by these drugs. Some of the strongest, fiercest fighters, I'm talking about fighters in, in a political way, political dissidents in the USSR, they did this to them with, say, Haldol and Thorazine, Haldol in particular, to break their will. The U.S. government does it to certain people, too. They did it to the black militants that were fighting for civil rights in the 1960s. They did to them. And they're going to do it to just about everybody there is in the future, period. There's absolutely no doubt about it. So, I just want to put this out here because this is a real warning to people as to exactly what we call it like the New World Order or whatever, like how they're, basically melding everything from the United States government and making it subservient to, say, a world power like how the United Nations wants things to be. It almost comes down to local governments and states' rights should be on the one area that really has the most say-so in a lot of stuff. That's not to solve the whole problem because even at every single state level, all these medical professionals are freaking playing these games whereby they are using systems to enrich themselves. There's no doubt about it. A lot of these people that are not the psychiatrists, but actually even work in these facilities and things like that, they're sadistic. They're screwed up. They're freaking, give them a little bit of power, they actually have a lot more power than, they abuse their power to the max. It's almost like you got people like, say, for instance, that are in law enforcement that are dealing with real criminals. They don't abuse their power like, somebody, say, a park policeman that goes around and says, or somebody that's, giving people tickets for abusing the turnstile in New York City. That's been a very big, lucrative money racket for the city of New York City. They don't, the people that are real law enforcement that are going after real criminals, they have a much more, broad common sense way of how to deal with people. People that are micromanager, myopic little shits, like, let's say, for instance, you're going through you're cheating on going through the turnstile in the subway system in New York City, and you're using an unlimited special token to get in there, and you're letting a friend go through, and they see that, they're real quick to jump on that stuff because those type of things that are illegal, it's like for $2.75, and they find a big amount of money because those type of people aren't really criminals. So a lot of times with the psych profession, they're abusing the crap out of it for domestic disputes when, say, for instance, a daughter has an argument with the mother. I've seen situations where the daughter creates the argument, the mother gets in trouble, the mother gets taken away, and she's drugged. Now, this also has other repercussions far beyond that. And in some cases, they're drugged extra hard to try to force them to be a customer permanently in that system because the psych needs to have so many people under his care to, justify why he's getting paid. The more they have quotas, and the more patients they have, the more money they get. It's all paid through by the pharmaceutical industry. Now, for the last 100 years, that we've been being destroyed health-wise in the United States through the pharmaceutical industry. I put out many videos on this channel about some of the things that are natural, have been known for many years. That have actually, some cases have been known for thousands of years. That have been basically far better treatments than some of the meds that have been given out there. Now, I also want to say something even about, now I'm talking about, say, the psych profession. There are some things out there that are natural that freaking cure situations where people have a lot of problems. For instance, say, for instance, like somebody has Alzheimer's or whatever. Maybe that's not a psychotic problem, but Alzheimer's can also be brought about not just by old age, but by statin drugs. Like in Japan, for instance, they know that statin drugs will cause Alzheimer's or could cause Alzheimer's. And the way to reverse it is with coconut oil, believe it or not. This was known since the 1920s. The reason coconut oil works is because it has the lauric acid in it, and it raises the ketones in the brain. Ketones, ketones in the brain. You raise it's called a high ketonic diet. To raise the ketones in the brain, will work against seizures, work against schizophrenia, also work against memory loss. And my memory is very sharp, so I take coconut oil quite often and good oils. Now, when you're taking the coconut oil, though, it will reverse, in many cases, Alzheimer's that are brought about by statin drugs. Another thing that is well known too, or pretty well, they used to do this all the time in the 1920s. Oh, by the way, the only thing that you can also use other things that raise ketones, which is butters, high fat milk, and other cheese products that are high in fat will also help raise the ketones in the brain. But coconut oil is the best. The other thing that can work against schizophrenia particularly is high dosages of niacin. That was known from Swedish studies that 80% of the patients had complete recoveries of schizophrenia in 3 months from high doses of niacin. I don't remember the dosages off the top of my head. But if those dosages were continued, probably the other 20% that weren't cured probably would be cured too. So, there's a lot of stuff, but you know what? Coconut oil and niacin is dirt cheap. And I already know some people on here are going to comment that are medical experts telling me, yeah, fine, go ahead comment, you'll be out of here too anyway, I don't give a shit. Because I'm not freaking here to it's like when some people have a comment, there's people that try to have an ongoing argument with me over something. You don't want to hear what I say? Fine, go somewhere else on the YouTube, that's all I can tell you. But as far as what's going on in this country, how they're going to control people, it is going to be primarily through the psych profession. And now that we have the Affordable Care Act passed, that is basically bringing together all the medical profession under one hat, indirectly, piecemeal by piecemeal. It's like they do things like if they have a federal law or federal recommendation, they try to withhold funds to the states to force them to change a law, or else they'll withhold funds to the states. They'll do it that way. Well, you saw the issue even with the transgender issue in freaking North Carolina. They're trying to withhold funds to North Carolina over some bullshit. So, anyway, I just want to put this information out here, and hopefully I've been helpful. And, it's like I'm actually doing this YouTube to fight some of the garbage that's going on here, not so much for profit. If I was just looking for profit, I'd just be doing 10 biggest fails, 10 worst tattoos and all this other kind of garbage. I'm trying to give you real information that can freaking help you. And we need to fight this garbage because if you do nothing about it, these evil people are going to win. And, just being hysterical about the New World Order and having getting little rumors about, what's going on. And, well, I'm using the word New World Order, but let's say, you know what I'm saying, the power grabbers that they've always been. If we just get hysterical about it and we just talk about it like giddy minds, that's not going to do anything. You got to know what to do. So I did mention one here that's in Florida, and I know they got one in New Jersey too. It's Citizens Commission on Human Rights of Florida. If there's any abuse by people that, somebody had a child that freaking had an argument with them or something, and the parent got dragged away and they got drugged. Well, there's somebody you can actually fill out a report on that, and if the psychiatrist, a lot of them are. I'll guarantee you, a lot of them are. They're freaking evil as all hell. It's probably a broad range, and I can't say they're all that way, but a lot of them are. They have to keep enough patients on hand, or else they don't have money. And they're not going to use coconut oil and niacin to freaking, or maybe sunlight or soothing, healing sounds of waves or something to help people. I mean, there's other devices out there, even sound devices that help people with sleep issues or whatever the hell it is. No, they only use psychiatric drugs because the psychiatric drugs are very, very profitable. That's how they're getting their money. But it's also a control factor whereby, actually the thing is, if anybody tries to, you can't argue with them because it's like they have the initials after their name and they make the diagnosis. That's all there is to it. So it's like, but as time progresses and we get more involved, because I know the master plan here is there is conspiracy on this garbage. It's the same thing that happened in the Soviet Union. The re-education camps were actually psychiatric institutes, everybody was drugged, whether it was severe or minor. If it was severe, it was a torture session. Whether it was minor, it caused them not to care about anything. There's absolutely no amount of willpower can stop those drugs. It's like almost like no amount of willpower can't stop a cannonball coming at your head, and taking it off. It's the same way. It's that way. So that's exactly what it is, but you don't see the physical damage. You only see it in the behavioral changes, and the behavioral changes that the drugs cause will justify the psychiatrist to have that person as a client even longer. And they know this because they are sadistic sickos. That's for most of them. Most of them are. Maybe not all of them. Most of them are. Most of them are. So, just want to give you a heads up on this deal, and if you don't fight this garbage and put out real pertinent information and what to do about it, like I gave you this organization here, this one here, and there's other ones out there. I know there's one in New Jersey and stuff about dignity of patients and stuff. If you go to, like, say you had an altercation with your wife or whatever, I'm not married or whatever, but if you had an altercation with your wife, what would happen is it would cause you to be, maybe undergo psychiatric treatment, and you cannot refuse those drugs ever, because this guy will tell you have to have them, and that's just the way it is. And they will give you extra ones to screw you up to make it so you are, you're a permanent customer. So, anyway, hopefully I gave you enough information here, but don't want to be a downer on it, but it's a big, big, big danger. It's not a joke, man. And people ignore this and don't fight back. I think a lot more people ought to go online, give them hell. And anybody that actually has been a victim of the psychiatric profession, don't take it lying down. Fight them all the way.